Live from the heart of Kansas City, welcome to Buck and Bob Take on Chiefs Kingdom. This isn't just any podcast, it's a fan-powered extravaganza where we dish out opinions, breakdowns, and engage in lively banter straight from the pulse of Chiefs Kingdom.
I'm Buck, your spirited host and Chiefs devotee. When I'm not passionately shouting at the TV, I'm dissecting every play and call with the precision of a seasoned armchair quarterback.
And I'm Bob, the voice of unpopular opinions and a penchant for stirring the pot. Together, we bring a dynamic mix of knowledge, enthusiasm, and a fan's perspective.
So whether you bleed red and gold or you simply love the thrill of football like we do, buckle up as we navigate the exhilarating world of the Kansas City Chiefs.
How about those Chiefs? All right, Buck, what do we have on the table today? Because the game is tomorrow, the first preseason game.
I know, I'm so excited. I got the shivers. I can't sleep at night. I'm waking up early. Like, what's the score? It hasn't even started yet. What I'm scared of is that the Chiefs, the starters aren't going to play long enough for me to really get a taste of what's on the table. But I know that we're going to see absolutely everybody that suits up. Everybody's going to take the field. So we'll really get a chance to see the talent, especially as some of the guys that are fighting for spots on the training squad and, you know, the end of the number 53 spot. So,
yep. And it's interesting because starting this podcast, I'm going to become even more. I was a pretty big fan, very knowledgeable about the Chiefs, but I'm going to become even more and more and learn even more and more about the game. In just the short time we've been doing this, I'm starting to look at things differently. I was never super interested in any of the preseason games besides game 3, really. You know, I would watch them for the first quarter maybe, and then I would, just not really watch them after that. Whereas, I would miss a funeral before I would miss an actual Chiefs game. But now I'm super excited to see the guys that I've been checking out in camp and everything. So it's really weird because I've never been so excited about a preseason game, and now I'm super excited.
So speaking of camp, we did take a little trip to the Chiefs training camp. We were a little bummed because we expected to, talk to the people, maybe do some interviews, see you get the pulse of what everybody was thinking and feeling. We kind of got a little bummed out because we got there. We walked 4.5 miles from the car to security, and then they made us turn around and take all our recording equipment back.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bummer, but we did then cheat, and we cheated up really close, so we were able to park just, a block away from where we had to go. Yeah. So there was a plus there, but it was a bummer that we didn't get to take that in. I guess, maybe next year we could apply for media, and I don't know if we will get it or not. I don't know if they respect podcasts or if our podcast will be respectable enough to warrant one. But, here's to hoping for next year. But we also learned how it worked, and I don't know. I guess I was always under the impression that all of the training camp days were basically what, in high school you would call two-a-days. Yeah. And we were there, and we were trying to kind of sneak into the VIP area. We were seeing if that was possible. It wasn't possible, but we were trying. And then we were looking at all the different stuff. We were checking out everything. We watched them practice for a bit, but then, we were trying to see if, we could run into a few people we know that are involved in the organization, the Chiefs organization. And then all of a sudden everybody's cheering, players are walking off. And I asked Steph, I was like, hey, are they coming back? They're just breaking for lunch. And she's like, nope, they're done. I was like, oh.
She almost said it with a smile too, like, nope, we're all done here. Yeah. See ya.
And all of a sudden I just turned it. I think if you saw us, we looked like two little kids that had just lost their ball.
Found out we weren't getting anything for Christmas.
Yeah, it was like It was like when, in Sandlot, when they hit the ball over the fence and they're like, oh, it's over.
Well, we kind of did a sweep around the place to kind of get a feel. We did a little sightseeing, all the different little vendors and whatnot. And then we finally got a chance to sit down and we're like, all right, now's it that we're going to watch some. And we got maybe 15 minutes or so. And that's when it all turned.
I think it was probably 20 or 30.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get lost in it. But we saw some good returns. We saw some good passes from Mahomes.
My big take, I think the one thing that really kind of surprised me, and it probably won't surprise you guys too much, but, we see a lot of the little clips on Facebook and TikTok and whatnot of the practices and the plays, and Pacheco's scoring all these touchdowns in training camp. And that's all fine and good. But, they go for like the one tackle move and they don't even always try to tackle. It's more of just getting the muscle memory of when to do it. And then they just kind of let him go. So, some of those videos are inflated as far as abilities are concerned. Because, in a real game, you're still going to get 11 guys trying to take your head off for the entire play. So it'll be a little different. But still, I think Pacheco looked faster, if that's possible, than last season. I've heard that. In the training room, he's putting a lot of time in the weights. He's getting stronger.
He's put weight on. I don't know if that's going to make him faster or just. Hopefully, it makes him more durable. That's what I'm hoping.
I don't care if he doesn't get any faster. I love his speed. I always have. But the power, the way he runs, and if he puts on a couple of pounds of muscle to even break a couple more tackles, I think some of the defenses are intimidated by this guy, and they should be, because he will run through your face.
The only thing that's a bummer about that is that those type of running backs usually have a short shelf life.
Christian Okoye, yeah.
And you think of Larry Johnson, you think of, like beast mode lasted way longer than those type of running backs normally do. And Henry is,
he's on another level.
He is slowing down, but they had a lot of mass to him, and so I think it's a good thing he's bulking up, because he's had shoulder stuff, over the years, and like I'd like to see him go for longer, because he seems like one of the nicest guys. Like you always see him after the games, like for an hour or two, just signing autographs and just being a real nice guy, and so.
Well, I do kind of have a personal experience with that. So I've got a friend from an old employer that has a daughter with leukemia, and she's the same age as she's like 2 weeks younger than my daughter. And this poor little girl, man, she's a warrior. And they had to raise a lot of money last year for a surgery, and so they tweeted out, and they were getting money in, and somebody knew somebody that knew Isaiah Pacheco, and they tweeted at him this, and then he tweeted that out, and I mean their GoFundMe blew up. They got to their goal. They were able to pay off their medical bills, and just a little gesture on his part, and it really saved that family's financial situation, which was awesome.
It's so cool when players do things like that. They use their platform in influence to help people. Like, not a big fan of famous people who use their fame to influence politics. Drives me nuts. I'm like, man, agreed. I want to hear about, these types of things where they use their influence for something really good, and not to try to get their political agenda. I'm just not a big. Yeah, both you and I are just not big politics guys. We don't like it. We don't like the whole system or anything. So, but back to the practice. What's funny is you watch all those clips, and you just get clips of good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not all good, and it's interesting because you just wouldn't think about that as much, when you're watching clips until you actually get there and experience it, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and we get to see some of the plays that don't make it into the season, right? So we get to see all those crazy trick plays that we love to see from Andy Reid and Mahomes. But all the plays that are left on the training room floor because they sucked or they didn't work, we got to see some of those, and we got to see why they don't make it into the regular season. So that's always fun too.
Yeah, but yeah, all in all, it was a good experience. But
Great learning. Yeah,
I just wish we had known exactly how everything worked. We did get there, right when they opened, but we didn't get in there until 35 minutes later because we had to walk all the way back to the car, and it really was like a long distance walk. We kept trying to flag down the cart people, and they
didn't want any. Yeah, we didn't have kids with us.
Yeah,
so there was a good portion of the group that had kids there. It was a very family friendly situation. There was no alcohol. We tried to buy a beer. There's just nothing.
Yeah, and it was interesting when we first got there. It was there was a field, but there was a bunch of kids doing activities. I was like, oh, I guess they haven't brought the team out yet. Luckily, we kept walking because then we realized, oh, the team's on the other fields.
Yep.
So that was
still
pretty
cool
funny.
To see that the Chiefs are, they know the kids are going to get bored watching the players on the field, especially the younger kids. So they have that whole area set up. So it's really a family event.
Yeah. It was neat that they did that. And so I had no idea that was going to be a thing. I mean, I went to Chiefs training camp years ago, years and years ago.
When isn't,
gosh, like freaking 2002 or something like that. It was, but it was very different. None of none of the kid stuff was there. And I think it was at the same place, but they've upgraded stuff because it didn't look the same to me that it did when I was there. But it was 20 years ago. Lots changed.
Yep. Well, yeah, especially with the recent success, they dumped a lot of money into all aspects of the organization. Training camp. I'm sure the locker room probably looks a little better than it did 10 years ago. They're spending the money where they need to keep the players happy.
You think the Chiefs have given money to Northwestern Missouri State?
I don't necessarily think the Chiefs gave them money. They probably give them a little something, but somebody's got to pay for all that stuff that's out there. That the school's not.
I bet you they do. I bet you they do give them. I never thought about that. Interesting. Hey, somebody tell us in the comments or write in.
Yeah, let us
I'd love
know.
to know that. Let's learn, man. Let's learn. Yeah. Let's learn more. All right, so what do we got here for injuries?
So injuries, I did a little bit of digging. We got a few things like Kadarius Toney. He left early on Monday and Tuesday.
Shocker.
Yeah. So at this point, they think it's just a workload issue. They don't want to overuse him. He's very fragile, so we want to have him for the regular season if he's going to be on the team. Although I'm still 100% against Kadarius Toney being on this team. I think that there are plenty other wide receivers that could use a shot, and I think that we have the wide receivers to carry the load that he won't need to carry. So if he makes the team, maybe as a returner, I'd be all right with that. But I don't want to see him catching passes from Mahomes at all. I don't even want to see the flip handoffs, 5 yards across the field. I don't. A handoff is a handoff. Otherwise, keep him off the field. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I feel done with him, and I feel done with oh gosh, see, can't remember his name. Sky Moore.
Oh yeah. I'm all right with Sky Moore.
I know.
We're looking at the depth chart, and he's listed as potentially one of the guys that's going to make the starting team. So, but Kadarius is probably on the outs as far as wide receivers are concerned. But it's still early. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
And it's interesting because from what I've heard and seen at camp, Justin Ross is really coming around, and I was excited about him last year, and then he had all of his issues. Mm-hmm. But they've got. I don't know if this is. They're saying that these are the 6 top ones, but they've got Rice, Worthy, Ross, Brown, Watson, Moore as the ones showing, and then everybody else, including Toney and Hardman, are all on the other area, which makes me believe that they're ranked right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and this comes straight from Chiefs.com. This is not a fan site.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Justin Ross above Tony and Hardman, to be honest. I mean, Hardman just felt like a shoo-in because he knows Andy Reid's offense, and he's been a workable receiver for us for years, and it just seems like he always comes back. So that's a good, if Ross is shaping up, I mean, we could have a scary team. I mean, just looking at the speed on the receivers is just absolutely nuts.
Scary wide receiver core without Kadarius Toney. I love the ring of that. I do.
What about the other injuries?
So we got Swayze Bozeman, linebacker. He got hurt yesterday, or I'm sorry, Wednesday, with a left knee. Justin Reed is out right now with a quad. Charles Omenihu is still out with the torn ACL. He's on the PUP list right now. BJ Thompson, he's the one that had that cardiac arrest, so he's still on the non-football injury list.
Well, here, let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
Just talk about Reed. I think Reed's injuries and stuff, he's been banged up throughout practice. I think that really speaks to he's not going to be doing kickoffs and doing the coverage. I think they're going to,
at least not to start,
try to make sure that he's healthy for being on the field during normal plays. But that's something I've just been watching. He's been banged up all of camp.
Yeah, and just a little foreshadowing that kind of gives us a little bit more to pay attention to with Reese Zammit. And that's one player I'm going to be watching really closely tomorrow's game for sure.
I can't wait to see, because I've seen he looks weird. He does look weird when he runs. It's interesting, and he he's holding the ball with two hands the whole time. It's interesting the way he runs, and I'm just hoping he doesn't get laid out.
I think he's doing the two-hand thing because it probably feels a little weird. A rugby ball is significantly larger than a football, so it probably feels like a little bit tiny, and he's trying to coddle it. Which, hey, that's a great thing, man. I mean, when somebody carrying the ball is carrying it with two hands. I remember back in the days of Tiki Barber, he would carry it with one hand. He would do this stuff all the time, throwing that arm out to the side, and he had the fumble problems, and they made him hold it up to his chest after that, and he pretty much cured all that.
Well, and remember, he only could hold it with his right arm.
Yeah.
He wasn't a back that could switch arms. You always want to switch arms to, have the ball on the outside of where the defenders are coming in. Sure. So I always thought that was hilarious. So I'm interested to see him play, and I'm rooting for him big time, man, because it just knowing his story and how he always wanted to play and everything.
Yeah, that's a really cool.
He's super popular in London too. I mean, that's crazy. So
a couple other big names that are on the injury list right now. Chris Jones has a stinger type thing. So usually that's not a big thing. A stinger type thing isn't a major injury. I expect him to be back at practice, I'm hoping, before the end of training camp. There's only a couple more practices left, but
I'm not exactly sure what a stinger is. I think it's just where you get hit and a
sore muscle, maybe.
I think it's
maybe a little strain or something.
An injury funny bone type of deal.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't, but I'm gonna have to look that up.
But it's enough for them to actually list it on something to be concerned about. So why not talk about it and get it out there? But we'll pay attention and make sure that this doesn't blow up into something bigger. But Chris Jones, anytime his name is on this list, it is a little scary because he's a integral part of this defense. I feel
like the stinger type thing might just be Andy Reid.
He's a little tired,
giving Jones his request because Jones wanted to take some practice time off. I could see that.
Andy Reid's
I think you got a stinger. You better sit out.
Giving him a little veteran privilege.
I have no idea, but that's what it feels like.
I hope.
Nick Bolton scares the crap out of me, though.
Elbow with Nick Bolton. He's not offensive. He's not carrying the ball, so it's not the biggest thing in the world. But man, you don't want when you got the big players, you don't want them to be out with anything serious like a joint or a big part of their tackling.
Oh yeah, like it's
appendages.
It's kind of scary, but
it is. Yeah,
having Drew Tranquil, like he really stepped up last year in the games that Bolton wasn't there. But I believe Drew is now going to be like taking over the spot that Gay used to take over.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to have someone else step up, and it looks like they're thinking it's going to be Zach Cochran.
And as much as I love Gay, I think Drew Tranquil is actually a step up.
Oh, I do too.
So,
and nothing against Gay. Gay was a solid linebacker,
awesome.
Solid linebacker. But I think Drew has a chance to be as good as Bolton. So,
just a little more scary to our defense. That's amazing. So we got a wide receiver, Jaron Hayek. He's down on the list, but he's out right now with a shoulder. And then we got Kelvin Joseph in the cornerbacks. He's out with a hamstring. So the good news is Derek Nottie is back. Jalen Watson is back. Nazeeh Johnson is back. Xavier Worthy was out for a couple practices. He's back. Joe Tooney, he's been on the list since day one with the hamstring or with the pectoral muscle. He was on the PUP list, but he is now back in practice too. So Garrett Prince also, he was seen in a boot a few weeks ago, and he's been practicing too. So I think that's it as far as all right. So in a previous episode, we kind of touched on the fact that there's going to be a new kickoff rule. We hadn't really looked into the specifics yet. We just kind of talked about it a little bit. But now that there's a game coming up, we should go over the new rules just to get a little clarity.
Also, because I've forgotten. I know they have to. I've forgotten the like details of it completely. But I just know they have to kick it in a certain area. They can't kick in front or behind. But I forget what happens if they do. So this would be good.
Yeah, and it's really cool because this really promotes returns, which is a part of the game that I think we've all been missing for the last couple of years. So with the new rules, so you've got your 11 players on the kicking team. 10 of those players have to be on the 40-yard line with their foot on the 40-yard line while the kicker kicks. They can't move until the ball either hits the ground or the receiving team touches the ball. At that point, they can move. So as far as the receiving team is concerned, we have the landing zone, which is the 0 to 20 yards. And then you've got to have at least 9 guys in that safety zone. I'm sorry, the safety zone is from the 30 to the 35 that the 9 guys, at least 9 guys have to be in there. And at least 7 of those guys have to be on the 35 line. At that point, the other 2 guys or whatever can be inside that 30 to 35, but they have to be outside of the hashtags, the hash marks. Now you can have 2 returners back there. You can only have, or you could choose to have 1 and then have 1 more blocker up in that safety zone. But those are kind of the guidelines to go by. When the ball is kicked, obviously there's going to be a ton more returns, which is going to be great. But if the ball falls onto the ground and is kicked before the end zone and then makes it into the end zone and it is downed, it bounces, then it'll come out to the 20 if it's downed. If it flies into the end zone and then it's downed, if they get it at the 30-yard line. So I think we're going to see a lot less of that. I think we want to see kicks.
Don't they put it at the 35 if something else happens?
No.
I thought if you kicked it short.
If you kick it short, it goes to the 40.
40.
Yeah, 40. Yep.
Okay, so it's coming back now. It's going to be I can't wait to see the strategies people come up with, and I'm just excited for kickoffs to be a thing again. I mean, being a fan of the Chiefs, the Dante Hall years, we're a great team, but boy, it was exciting watching him do returns, and that part of the game has just been dead for years now, and they had to make the change for, injury purposes, but the change just wasn't a good change in hindsight, and all the kickoff was basically a ceremony for no reason. You know?
And what this does is it's going to prevent any of the collisions while the ball is in the air. Everybody's, paying attention to what's happening with the ball. And
because nobody can move until the ball's caught.
Right. Yeah. So at that point, the ball's in play and everybody's focusing on who they're hitting or who they're getting hit by. This will be a lot less injuries, a lot more excitement.
I wonder how many penalties we're going to see in the beginning, because the people on the return side, they can't move. And so are they just going to wait and react to the kicking team's defenders that they or are they going to be looking back at the receiver and then have to turn their head back? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'll probably be facing forward, and then there'll be some kind of communication from the back. But
I wonder if the ref will blow a whistle when the ball's caught. I wonder if it'll be that type of deal. I'm interested to see how it all plays out.
Yeah. And then the onside kicks too. So they have to declare if they're going to do an onside kick, which I like. I mean, I've never really been a huge fan of the onside kick, except for when it's worked in our favor, which
is almost never.
Yeah, which is almost never. It's like a last ditch effort, and I think if you're using that to win a game, you're already kind of behind the 8 ball anyway. So you really got to earn it and let the other team know that you're going to be doing it.
And call me crazy, I'm not a big fan of when coaches do the surprise onside kick. I think it's kind of a bad manners type of deal. It's like the coaches that'll run up the score. I'm old school and thinking that I'm like Andy Reid. Like, everybody's mad when we take a knee right close to the end zone. They're like, get us another TD, but it's respect that Reid's giving to the other coaches and the other team. It's the game's never been about, at least for a lot of us, the game's never been about humiliating the other person. In college, it's a necessary thing for rankings and things of that nature. And, college is a different game.
It is,
and this is, I think, some of the younger guys and even the older guys like Bill Belichick, like, I just don't like that type of mentality. And so, I don't even remember where I was going with that.
Well, you also can't do the onside kick in the first 3 quarters. It can only be in the fourth quarter, and you have to be trailing. So if you're winning the game, you can't do the onside kick.
This reminds me of the rules that I made in our Madden League. Yep. I specifically made 4th down rules and stuff, so and onside kick rules that were specific because
of one person.
It's multiple people. I don't like playing. I don't like playing Madden online because everybody goes for 4th down. Yeah. Like, there was one year where you could play fair play rules, and it would actually not let you go for certain 4th downs. But everybody goes for 4th downs, and it's not football.
Yeah,
and so I like the rules of not being able to go, do it if you're up and stuff of that nature. So,
yep, me too.
Yeah, but it's gonna be neat to see.
All right, so now that we've covered the kickoff, let's talk about what we're looking forward to see tomorrow afternoon or evening. So I made a list of a few guys that I'm really excited to keep an eye on. Kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Louis Rees-Zammit. We're really excited to see what he does. I hope he does a kickoff. I hope he gets some good playing time in the backfield. I'd love to see him catch a pass. I want to see him run. I want, like you were talking about. He's going to run tough. I envision Isaiah Pacheco, where he's mad at the ground. I kind of feel like Zammit's going to be kind of in the same style.
You think so? I don't think so at all.
I think he's going to be a bruiser.
I think he's going to be. I've watched some of his rugby footage now, and I think he's going to be more of a slippery guy and have like crazy cuts and things of that nature. Whereas Pacheco, I don't see as a crazy cut guy. I see him as a freight train.
Well, I think, from the opposing team's point of view, they're going to see this guy who's never played football and he's coming from another sport and he thinks he's better than us and he can come in and run this, run this league on the best team in the league. Right. And so I think they're going to come in and kind of focus on him a little bit, and we're going to show him what it's like to be. You think you can hit without pads? We'll show you what it's like to hit with pads. So he's not going to shy away from that. I think he'll shoulders down and he'll show you what he's made of.
Well,
so
we'll see,
because that's maybe a little bit of both.
That's what the coaches have been talking about him, is that he needs to learn to run shoulders down instead of shoulders up. If you watch any of his rugby stuff, he is like straight up. I mean, almost bent backwards. His back is so straight. Great posture.
A lot of those rugby guys run like that.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, I think it's
a completely different sport. Yeah. So Xavier Worthy, obviously, him and Patrick Mahomes, they've had a lot of really pretty hookups in training camp. There's all kinds of footage out there, and he's looking great.
I'm super excited about Worthy, but I'm also excited about Justin Ross.
Yeah, well, he's shown signs in the past, so we'll see what happens. I think I'm really just excited. I think every single receiver is going to catch a pass in this game. Every receiver that plays, I think they're going to make it a point to make sure that everybody at least gets the opportunity to catch something.
Well, I'm also excited. You're talking about catching, but Carson Wentz will be interesting to watch too. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that type of backup quarterback. We had a great backup quarterback that, hardly ever played, but played well when he came in. And Carson Wentz could definitely be that guy.
He could. I don't really want to spend too much time focusing on backup quarterbacks myself because they play such a small role in the season. And I think Carson Wentz has had his day with the Eagles. He wasn't able to keep that starting position. So, I mean, as a backup for Mahomes, sure, great. But if it was me, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see him in the game the whole time, Mahomes, even though I know, injuries and all that. But I just want to see the Chiefs win. I really do, even though this has nothing to do with wins. Preseason has nothing to do with winning and losing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Andy Reid he doesn't actually care. A pretty bad preseason record. And, yeah, it's funny because when he first came, I was like, he first came in, I was like, oh, man, we lost 3 out of 4 because they used to have 4, preseason games. But I quickly learned that doesn't matter with Reid. He's trying stuff out. He's wanting to see the players and everything. And so, I mean, but I think the backup quarterback is extremely important because if Mahomes goes down, we need to have someone that's okay to come in. And we know Mahomes, he pushes through tons of stuff.
Yeah, but
if there's a time that he goes down, I still want to win, so I'm never hoping for that or anything. So that's why I'm interested to see, because I've heard Carson Wentz is looking good in practice. And also, if he's a smart quarterback, that just helps Mahomes too,
Yeah.
Because normally those guys, backup quarterbacks with a lot of knowledge are usually mic'd in too, So if he's able to help like that, that's pretty cool.
Yep. So another guy that we haven't heard a whole lot about, Kingsley Suamatea, as a left tackle. So he'll be blocking Patrick's blind side.
He's the rookie, right?
Yeah. And so I'm really excited to see what he can do. He's a big boy.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, then some people said that he, was going to be a project coming out of the draft, and some people said that they said he's got a ton of raw talent. So I'm interested to see if they've got him on the top of the, at least on this depth chart. So right. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, also all signs are pointing towards him open for the preseason. So I think we'll get to see him with the first team out there tomorrow, that'll be exciting. see what he
Yeah,
can do.
I think he'll get a lot of playing time, whereas someone like Kelsey and Mahomes are going to get very little playing time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another guy, Curtis Jacobs, linebacker. So he's, we haven't heard a whole lot about him because we've got our linebacking core is solid, right? But this guy coming out of high school was supposed to be the next Ray Lewis, right?
Really?
Yeah, once he got into college, there was a lot of flash. There wasn't a whole lot of substance, from what I understand. But his athleticism and his coverage ability, if they can make that translate into the NFL, he may have an exciting future. And I mean, look at the guys he can learn from: Drew Tranquill, Nick Bolton. I mean, that's a great teaching opportunity for him, I think. So I'm excited to see him. I'll be watching him tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm also going to be paying attention to the cornerbacks, because from what I've been hearing is that it's Trent McDuffie, and then he's just waiting for that other one to really, shine. And there's a lot up in the air for who's going to be that second corner, overall. And so I'm interested to see who that's going to be. And there's a lot of corners still on the roster right now.
Well, right now they have listed for the other side Joshua Williams. But as you said, I mean, there's a lot of competition. There's not a big spread between these guys. So we got Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson still. So yeah, you're right. There's definitely some room for these guys to move into that second spot. So my last guy, the last guy that I wanted to watch, and I don't think this is going to be a big surprise, is Pacheco. As we kind of touched on earlier, he's looking a little bit bigger. He looks like he might be a little bit faster. All the TikTok videos showing him scoring 14 touchdowns every practice. So I can't wait to see him get out there and make a couple hits, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to lay some defensive linemen on their back. He's a little guy, but he'll do it. I'm excited for him. I truly am.
You know who I'm not excited to see?
Kadarius Toney?
No. I mean, we already talked about that, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, man, I have not been a fan of him since the end of his first season, and I want somebody else to step up really bad, because but he's listed second again, and I was excited when Prince was taken, the second snaps, but it looks like he's not listed as Prince is listed as the third back, and I was just hoping Prince would step up. And the coaches obviously see something that I don't see, but it just drives Edwards-Helaire just always. Man, last year he fought a little bit. You saw little times that he fought, but he just seems to go down like a ton of bricks. And I found out recently that he suffers from PTSD, but I don't know from what. I don't know if he was in the military or something.
No, I did. I saw a little blurb on that. So he had to act in self-defense, and he killed somebody. And it was a very traumatic event for him. He's still dealing with the
guilt.
My
gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I try to say this to people all the time, because I've known both military and police officers who have had to take a life, and they've all told me it ain't like the movies. Like it's even if it's a bad person, you are there, and just like it changes a person, no matter what. And like it's I think even worse for military guys, because they're not chasing after criminals. It's another person just like them that is fighting for their government. And there's not really bad guys. Unless you think. I can only think of a few wars where there are true bad guys, and we're not going to talk about those,
right?
But it's just that, like I did not know that. I thought maybe like a really bad car wreck or something. But wow.
So I still want to. I want to voice my disagreement with we've talked about this in past episodes, but I love Clyde. I really do. I think his heart is in it. It always has been. I saw last year more than just a couple of small flashes. I saw a man who had lost his starting role to Pacheco because of the way Pacheco runs. And I saw him. He had a crossroads, right? I can sulk and watch this guy take over my spot, or I can learn from this. And I think he did. He saw how Pacheco ran. Look at the video last year versus 23. He ran harder. He ran more like Pacheco. He broke more tackles. I don't have stats to. It's just a feeling as I'm watching the game. I saw him. Really trying to, I think he was trying to stay up with Pacheco as the way that he runs. And I'm not surprised he's second on the list.
See, I will only give you last year that he played with any sort of heart whatsoever. I don't think his heart's been in it, or I think he's played horrible, until last year. I mean, he would literally, you would blow on him and he would fall over. And he would run right into the back of his own line. He'd run right into defenders, and he was never like patient enough. Like you saw Pacheco in his first year, halfway through the season, he got more patient, mm-hmm. and he would wait for a second to hit the hole, instead of just running right at it. And it's like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has never learned that, and so I don't
think he had learned it, but I think he did start to learn that last year. I do. I really do.
He can catch the ball.
Yeah,
and
he's fast.
I will give him that.
He's fast. I think he's elusive. Like I said, I think he's earned the second spot. We'll see what he does tomorrow. We'll see how they show up, because they're always going to do the first team, then they'll do the second team, then they'll do the backups. So we'll see. We know we'll see Pacheco first, but I wonder if we'll see a little bit of mixture of Clyde and Pacheco with the first team, or if they're going to give Pacheco all the first team and then Clyde with the second team.
Well, I just want to see more of Eric Prince. I haven't seen enough of him to know if Edwards-Helaire earned his spot or not, but I know that I've liked seeing little flashes from him here and there, and I think he's looked pretty good in camp. So. Yeah, so that's what I'm not excited about, and so we'll just see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see who actually stands out in the game, because I think it might be somebody we haven't even talked about. So we'll see. This is where people can earn their spot, and the people way down on the depth chart, they're going to be trying, and I'm excited. It's so cool, because it's the first time I've ever been excited for preseason, and I just can't wait to keep doing this and gaining more insider football knowledge, and hopefully all the listeners can help us with that too.
Yeah, and to touch on what you were just saying, you're excited for the third string and the backup guys, and to see them try and prove themselves. We all know iron sharpens iron, right? So when you're going against the number one offense and one of the top defenses in the league, even as backups, that's only going to help you going through training camp. So I think that this team is really, from the top to the bottom right now, is really set up for success this year. Way more than we were last year at this time. This was an off. We've said it before. We'll say it 100 times this season. Last season was an off season. It wasn't even rebuilding. So
yeah, it was. The fact that it's unbelievable how the team pulled it together in the last weeks of the last weeks of the season and the playoffs. I said it all last year. This has been a good learning experience for the front office, and the fact that Mahomes is amazing, but he's got to have weapons. And I know everybody said it everywhere, throughout this season, but, I think that was a good thing. And, I think we're going to see, I'm hoping for a year like when Randy Moss the first year he got traded to the Patriots. Like, I want something like a record-breaking year. I'd be so excited. I know I guessed, low on the TDs, but I would be fine if if we had, because we haven't had, Pacheco's good, but he's not a all-world running back. We haven't had an all-world running back since, gosh, I can't even think of his name. There was talks he might even almost have come back, but oh man, I'm forgetting his name. But during like the early days of Andy Reid coming to the Chiefs and Alex Smith, it was the running back, and he was like the staple of the team. I wouldn't mind having Pacheco step up.
Small Charles.
No, was it Charles?
Oh.
It was after Charles. Charles was really good, but no, this was like almost 1,000-yard rusher. In the 2 years I think he was with us, but he was the team carry, and like I wouldn't mind having a running back that just does really good and has a ton of yards, but. I don't think that that's going to happen. But if it did, I'd be fine with Mahomes getting less TDs, and us having, a crazy good both sides of the ball. Because if that happened, I mean, this team would be unstoppable.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, I think what's going to separate us this year from last year is, last year what we were really missing was the long ball. We didn't have any home run big plays. We just didn't have that receiver that could catch the ball downfield.
Yeah, I mean, Watson was the closest, and then the thing like
Smith-Schuster.
Smith-Schuster was like kind of like that, but he didn't have the separation that you would need. But I'm interested to see. I've seen Justin Ross get a lot of jump balls, and I haven't watched a ton of Hollywood Brown's stuff, and I'd want to see how high they can get up to get the ball in coverage, because that was something that I thought people didn't talk about Tyreek Hill as much about, and I think it's one of his biggest things. Like, Tyreek Hill could beat you with speed, but if it was contested, he could also beat you. He could jump higher than you, and it was uncanny.
And the 50-50 balls he was going to come down with more than 50% of the time.
Yeah, sometimes he would jump so high that his feet were at his head level if he was standing on the ground. I mean, that is some ups right there. Like, I bet he can dunk.
Yeah.
I bet he can dunk.
I don't even think that would be contested. I don't think anybody would argue with that. That guy can jump high. All right. So before we wrap up, you have any kind of predictions for this game? Maybe the preseason?
Well, I was just going to say before that, I'm just excited for our next episode where I can actually talk about the things that I've seen. It's very interesting, the off-season stuff, and we're going to learn that next off season. We'll probably do just an episode every 2 weeks or something like that. But it's weird trying to come up with takes without seeing as much. But after we're able to watch the game, it's going to be really neat to really talk about the different things that happened, And so I think the episodes during the season are going to be very, very fun. So that's. My prediction is I'm going to have some cool stuff to talk about next week.
I think the first offensive play of the game is going to set up to look like a run by Pacheco, because I think everybody kind of expects us to get started with, and then it's going to be a play action pass. They're going to go deep. I think they're going to go deep really early just to show everybody, hey, look, this is not the same Chiefs team we were last year, so watch out. But, I'm wrong more often than I'm not, so either way, it's going to be fun and exciting. Like you said, I'm just so excited to get back to watching Chiefs football, especially now that I've got a little, rooting more than just sitting on the couch rooting for my team, but I've got something to talk about now on a weekly basis. So
yeah, but it's looking more and more like Rice isn't going to be taking the suspension this year. It's crazy that I'm excited about so many receivers on our team. It's absolutely nuts that I'm this excited.
This is the biggest swing in one in one department of our team from one year to the next that I can remember. We went from one of the worst receiving corps to potentially a top 10 receiving corps. I think that's a huge swing.
I think they have the potential to be the number one just because of the speed, but I'm thinking more they could be top 5. As long as just everybody needs to catch the ball. Everybody needs to catch the ball. That's where I'm at.
Or knock it down. Don't
tip it up.
Jeez. Don't throw away ball games. All right. Well,
where can we find you, Jason?
Well, I'm always on Facebook, as always, or you can find me on Twitter, X. It's at Bucktastic, BUK_TASTIK.
Yep, and I'm still going to call it Twitter, just like I still call it GIF instead of GIF, and that's one of my unpopular takes, but you're just going to have to live with it. But you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. And you can find our different socials in the show notes or the comment section below. So get a hold of us. Let us know all the stuff we got wrong. Let us know maybe some of the stuff that you like or agree with, and let's just keep learning.
Yeah. Good luck tomorrow night, guys.